So I started asking around if I wanted to reach the largest number and the most influential number of African Americans and other minorities in America, who should I talk to? And everybody kept coming back at me with the Breakfast Club. You have to have the people, the Breakfast Club. You have to talk to them. And so they have graciously agreed to do this. We're taping this on Sunday afternoon. They have been very kind in giving up a portion of their day to make this possible. And I want to introduce them to you now. They are three people who have earned the trust of their audience in the mornings. They are syndicated morning drive. You don't know how hard that is. It's very difficult to get local radio stations to give up their morning drive to a syndicated show. And these three have pulled that off. It's amazing. They have built a substantial audience. They are Charlemagne the God, Angela Yee, and DJ Envy. And they are co-hosts of what's called the Breakfast Club.
Yes.
Every Democrat candidate for president this year has made it their business to appear on the Breakfast Club. And now it's my honor to appear on the Breakfast Club. Excuse me, even though I'm not a Democrat. Now, guys, can I tell you why I wanted to have you here? You know, the George Floyd story is being lost.
Right.
There are two things happening in America, and it sickens me what happened to him. Legitimate national outrage about a policeman's criminal brutality has been hijacked. And I don't want to forget about George Floyd. What happened to George Floyd sickened me. And I wanted to reach out and tell you all this. I want to make sure you have no doubt, and I'm not the only American who feels this way, the senselessness of it. You know, we're only given one life. We don't get a do-over. We only get one. We all take it for granted because it just happened. We're born. We don't even remember that. But George Floyd had his taken away from him. He didn't lose it. He had it taken away from him in a senseless, stupid way. And I think most Americans are just as angry and sad about this as I am. And I'm also angry at the cops that stood around there and didn't do anything to stop it. It was just, I can't tell you how frustrated it is. And I just wanted to share the emotion I have with you guys about this, and to try to convey to you that I actually think most Americans are just as sickened and outraged by it as I am.
Yeah, and you know what? One of the worst things is that I feel like we're so accustomed to being in these situations where we get frustrated, where nothing happens, and these police officers are back out doing the same thing over and over again. And that's part of the frustration, is this is not an isolated incident. This is something that's been happening in our community. It hasn't stopped. We don't see when it will stop. And I think people are frustrated, and it's a combination of so many different things right now.
Well, that's, I think, absolutely right. If you look at the actual circumstance here, you had what happened to him. It's on video. You've got the cop standing there almost looking like he's bragging or having fun, exerting power. How stupid is the cop? Can the cop not be aware of what we in this country are going through precisely because of what he's doing at that moment? How can anybody be that insensitive or stupid? It's beyond me to understand.
It almost felt like that the more that people were telling him that he was killing him and that it was blood coming out of his nose and that he was lifeless, it was giving him a hard on. But he really felt like, just looking at his face, I think that was probably the closest thing to a devil that I've ever seen in my life. That gave him a hard on. It was his ego that just allowed him to keep applying pressure and taking that man's life.
I can't.
Let me ask you a question, Russ. This is Charlemagne talking. We've seen numerous police killings of unarmed black people in this country. Why is the George Floyd situation the one that's making you say enough is enough and this needs to stop? Why this situation in particular?
Because I'm fed up with it. I'm not tolerant of any of them. But I'm fed up with it, Charlemagne. None of this. See, to me, and I know that you're going to disagree with me on this. To me, this is not America. It's a sad.
Oh no, it's definitely America.
Well, see, but it's not what we can be. It's not what we have been. We're the greatest nation in history of the world, and we haven't achieved that on the basis of
who though, Russ?
We're not.
I think that I think it's easy for you to say because you're a white male, and that comes with a different level of privilege. And I do think America does work, but it works for the people that it was designed to work for. It doesn't work for everybody else the way it works for you.
Well, it can. That's the point of America. It can for anybody who wants to adapt to it, for anybody who wants to try to take advantage of the unique opportunities that exist in the United States. We're the only nation that's ever enshrined the concept of individual liberty and freedom in our founding documents. We're the only country that's ever created a document to govern ourselves by that limits government. Now, it's you know, look, gang,
Well,
I can't say that I've faced this. Okay.
But George Floyd wasn't doing anything wrong. Breonna Taylor got killed in her house. She wasn't doing anything wrong. And so it's not that people haven't adapted to things. It's just that we get targeted and then there's no punishment when the police officers commit these crimes against us.
No.
And then
I didn't mean to conflate that George Floyd could have stopped what was going to happen to him. Don't misunderstand.
Okay.
George Floyd is the essence of innocence. But what I'm saying is that America is a place with robust opportunity if you want to go out and look for it and find it. Now, the people ripping up the streets today and last night, the Antifa types, they don't care to find the op. They disagree with the whole construct of America.
Well, no, I got to push back on you with that, too. It's not just the Antifa types. You know what I'm saying? Like you see all these white folks out there protesting, looting, raising hell. You know what I'm saying? Let's not act like there isn't 40 million people who have filed for unemployment in America. Folks been sitting around the last 3 months waiting on stimulus checks. More than 44% of those people have been denied unemployment checks, are still waiting on them to come. People of all races are broke. They don't know where their next meal is coming from. Their savings are exhausted. If they had any, they don't know how they're going to pay bills. So, of course, they're going to go out there and loot. Of course, they're angry and frustrated.
Unnecessarily,
and
it turns out. Unnecessarily. There's no reason to shut down the country. There was no reason to lock everybody. Of course, you put 40 million people out of work and tell them, you penalize them when they do try to open their businesses. You're going to create a powder keg. A powder keg has been created. But
that's right. That's why I can't allow you to say that it's just Antifa out there, because it is a lot of white people who are fed up
but the Antifa people look. The Antifa people are the violent ones. The Antifa people are the ones that are trying to capitalize on it. Of course, there's some legitimate, heartfelt people out there peacefully protesting. But look, you guys, let me tell you, you are a testament to the opportunity available in America. Look at you. How did you do it? What did you have to overcome to become the Breakfast Club? And what did you have to overcome to become dominant in morning drive and American radio? Who held you back, or what were you able to overcome in order to do it? The opportunity is there, is the only thing I'm saying.
Right, but you talk about peacefully protest, right? And you were very opinionated about Colin Kaepernick, and he was peacefully protesting, right? And now people are saying, no, they're not peacefully protesting. This is the same thing Colin Kaepernick was kneeling for, that the world was so upset about. And the world said he's taking it too far and he doesn't know what he's talking about. This is exactly the reason why he was kneeling and protesting. The fact that an unarmed African-American man was doing nothing. They still don't even know if he had a fake $10 or $20 bill or not. And that man kneeled on George Floyd for damn near 9 minutes and killed that man, murdered that man. And looked at us like, yeah, I'm doing it, and what?
You guys, I'm trying to tell you, I'm all with you. I'm 1,000% with you on this. This is why I wanted to talk to you, because I know that there are, we all have preconceptions that we live under and biases that we live under. And I wanted to reach out to you guys specifically. You were the ones that I was told to speak to, that this is intolerable. Now, but
I'm happy to have the conversation. I'm glad you're having it, because I think your audience needs to hear it. And you said something a little while ago, and I want to just talk about that. This is a country, America, that denies black people justice and just plain decency, and then they act like we're just supposed to be happy to be here because it allows a few of us to make a few dollars. When did I say that? The majority of us out here catch hell. Well, you said, you guys made it. Y'all are successful. You know what I'm saying? But the rest of us are catching hell out here. R.I.P. George Floyd. But we can't act like this is an isolated incident.
Charlemagne, you're adding things to my mouth that I didn't say. You're adding syllables I have not uttered. I was trying to be complimentary of you, and I'm trying to illustrate that you are an example to others that want to try. You can succeed. Let me ask a quick question. If the Minnesota Vikings had announced 2 nights ago that they were going to hire Colin Kaepernick, would the riots have stopped?
No. Nobody gives a shit about that. What are we talking about?
Well, you guys, what do you mean? You guys brought up Kaepernick.
Kaepernick. His name is Kaepernick.
Kaepernick, sorry. You guys brought up
Colin,
and I'm just asking if the Vikings had signed him, would the people of Minnesota, oh, good, okay, he's got a gig. We're not going to protest anymore.
Because that's not going to stop white supremacy. That's not going to stop racism, okay? We got to, R.I.P. to George Floyd, but that was not an isolated incident. This is a regular occurrence for black people in this country.
How do you stop it?
The powers that be don't want to change the system.
How do you
stop? That's a question for you. I want to know,
guys,
how are you going to use your privilege as a white male to combat this prejudice? You got a direct line.
I don't buy into, no, wait a minute. I don't buy into the notion of white privilege. See, I think that's a liberal. That's a liberal political construct right along the lines of political correctness. It's designed to intimidate and get people to shut up and admit they're guilty of doing things they haven't done. I don't have any white privilege.
You know what white privilege is? White privilege is that what happened to George Floyd would not have happened to a white man. That's the epitome of white privilege right now.
If what happened to George Floyd had happened to a white man, we probably wouldn't even have heard about it.
Huh?
You definitely would have heard about it. You definitely would have. You
think so? Huh? If George Floyd, if George
black people get killed by
Rush,
I would like
I don't think if George Floyd.
Say this, Rush, there's a lot of instances where this does happen and we don't hear about it. There's a lot of times that there's no video that exists, and then people are police officers lie and they say this is what happened. Just like we've seen it happen so many different times where fortunately there was video. There's a lot of cases that won't make it. I
think you guys
go viral.
That you never hear about, that never make it to TV, that never make it to social media.
I think you misunderstood what I said, guys. Video? I said if George Floyd were white, we wouldn't have heard of this. And if the same thing had happened to him, we wouldn't have heard about it. There wouldn't be,
Would you be outraged, right?
How do we end racism? Would you tell me?
You wouldn't hear about it. And you know
how
why?
Do we
because
end?
That guy would have been arrested. He would have been fired. He would have been charged with murder a long time before all this.
Yeah.
Immediately before the video hit the social media, he would have been charged, fired, arrested, locked up, and all that. If George Floyd was white,
there's a Muslim. I think there's a Muslim officer in Minneapolis now doing 12.5 years because he accidentally killed a white woman. And on duty. So I mean, I don't get it. But let me ask you a question, Wes. Because I remember in 2014 you criticized President Obama and you said he should do more to ease racial tensions in the wake of the grand jury decisions to not indict the white police officers in Ferguson. You said if he wants to, he can inspire, and I think is called for in this situation. Shouldn't that same advice apply to President Trump right now?
Absolutely.
I think it applies to all presidents. Absolutely, no question about it. That's one of their roles, is to calm circumstances in situations like this. But look, guys, our time is dwindling. Can I ask you, you keep harping on white privilege and racism. Would you tell me how to end it? What can we do to end this so that you are not frustrated and angry and feeling like whatever you feel like? Because I hate it. I hate you guys. We're all Americans here, and I don't like the fact that you're angry all the time. So what can we do to stop the racism?
Here's the thing, right? As long as there's a system of white supremacy, there will always be these type of situations. It doesn't matter who's in the White House if that person is not willing to dismantle the mechanism of white supremacy. If that person is not willing to change legislation that disproportionately impacts black folks, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Like, we've seen this a million times.
Okay, tell me what happened.
Riots.
You had 4 years of Barack Obama. You had Americans, white Americans, voting for Obama because they wanted to say we're not racist. We're not a racist country. You had people electing the first African American president in our history. He served for 8 years. Why isn't there anything to show for it that makes you less angry than you were then?
Once again, it doesn't matter who's in the White House if that person is not willing to dismantle the mechanism of white supremacy.
Come on, guys. Elections don't matter now?
Well,
I think, here's the thing. I think that when we got to stop acting like white supremacy isn't done by design. The whole function of systemic racism is to marginalize black people. And it's very hard to get any damn near 80-year-old white man to change a system that's been working for him and his family for years. I don't care if it's Biden or Trump. So once again, we need people that are willing to dismantle the mechanism of white supremacy.
Okay, so let me ask you guys, why do you still vote Democrat?
I vote for whoever I think is the best candidate.
Because Democrat Party has been promising to fix your grievances for 50 years, and you have the same grievances. You have the same complaints. They haven't done a damn thing for you. They haven't even punished the people that you think are responsible for the racism and bigotry being done to you. Why do you keep supporting them?
And you know, I don't disagree with you, and that's why I'm not letting nobody politicize black pain and tell us that this is one person's fault just because they are trying to win an election in November. This is America's fault. And the war on drugs, mass incarceration, segregation, slavery, all of those things are and have been the proverbial knee on the back of black folks' neck. And until somebody is willing to dismantle the mechanism of white supremacy, nothing is going to change.
Well, Rush, I also don't want to lose track of what we're talking about here, because I know we're trying to focus on George Floyd and what's happening with him and how can we take some actionable steps to move forward and what can be done, right? So on your end, what are some things that you feel like
I think that cop should be charged with first-degree murder, and I think that the guys standing around ought to be charged, the other cops that were standing around. I think it's time to end this. Look, we are all aware of police brutality. We're all aware of the actions that some rogue cops take, and it's way too many of them against African-American men, and it's time to stop. And I'm not a policeman, I'm not an executive in a police department, but it seems to me that if those people end up being charged instead of shielded, when they commit murder, there shouldn't be any legalized murder. And that would be one way to at least get a start on making sure it doesn't happen. This George Floyd was, for everything I've been able to tell, was a good guy. He was a nice guy, had a family, and said, did not even come close to deserving having his life taken from him like this.
Not at all. Not at all. Now, do you agree with the way that the media is portraying everything? You're in media, and you know, media is a white media, of course. Do you agree with how they're portraying everything that's going on right now?
Oh, God, I don't think we've gotten the truth out of most media in 3 or 4 years. I don't know. And I think that's another reason why people are mad, you guys. They know they've been lied to. They were lied about so many things for 2, 3, 4 years now. And so now they don't know what to believe coming out of the media. And I don't care what it is, Fox, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post. There doesn't seem to be anywhere in our culture that people have trust in an institution or series of institutions that provide a backstop and reliability when something like this happens. And I think that's creating or contributing to even more of the unrest that's happening out there. And this is our first break. We miscalculated this by some 2 minutes. And since I'm host, I'm going to take the hit for it. We could have kept this going for another couple of minutes. There's another 9 minutes of this is the point. And we're going to get to that after our bottom of the hour break. If you're just tuning in and wondering what this was, just to briefly reset the table. And I still haven't gotten over watching the video of what happened to George Floyd. As I say, I've run out of words to describe the combination of anger and, I don't know, there was obviously sadness and so forth, but just livid rage over it. I don't understand how the cop could do it. I don't know how one person can do that to another. I know there's cruelty out there. I know I'm not naive, but it just so senseless. The guy has his life taken. He's a good guy. So I wanted, rather than just sit here and tell every one of you about this frustration, and I wanted to reach out to some people in the African-American community and talk to them about it. You know, it said that we need to communicate, get to know each other and so forth. So I asked around and I said, where in media do I go if I want to reach the largest segment of African-Americans who listen to radio in America? Everybody said the Breakfast Club. And so that's what happened. We taped a conversation yesterday afternoon, 3 o'clock. with the Breakfast Club. And the three voices that you were hearing are DJ Envy, Angela Yee, and Charlemagne the God. And these people have been in the news a lot lately. Every Democrat presidential candidate has gone through their show. And it was on this program, and Charlemagne the God did the interview with Biden, where Biden said, if you ain't voting Democrat, if you ain't voting for me, you ain't black. And where he caught all kinds of grief for that. So we taped it yesterday afternoon, and as I say, there's nine more minutes to go. This is the first I've heard. I did not listen to it after it was taped yesterday. I wanted to listen to it live with all of you. So when we come back for the bottom of the hour break, there's another 8 or 9 minutes to wrap this up, and to have a spot break, and then we'll have room for a couple of calls, maybe 3, if any of you want to react to it. It's fascinating to do something. You know, I've told you that when I did TV, I didn't like it because every time I thought I had done a great show, nobody else did. And every time I thought I had been pretty bad, everybody thought they raved about it. And I got more comments about my ties than anything I'd ever said. And television became a very frustrating thing to do to get legitimate feedback on, because people saw and heard different things than what I wanted them to see or hear. And the same thing happened here yesterday. The reaction that I got first to the interview was from people who thought, oh my God, they disrespected you, they were rude and so forth. And I didn't hear that because I just didn't hear it. I didn't hear the rudeness or the disrespect. And then I just chalked up the fact that I'm deaf and I don't hear half statistically of what's said to me anyway. And then if there's crosstalk, I don't hear any of that. So, but this is, I think, valuable and worthwhile. Sometimes I mishear white privilege, white supremacy, end up talking about things that they did not bring up. That's my memory of it here. We'll see how this plays out, because I'm hearing this for the first time right along with you. So here is the resumption.
Rush, how would you advise Donald Trump to handle this situation? Because I see that he's having some issues. He's calling people thugs. He's talking about sicking the dogs on people if they try to come into the White House. But then you see how he treats people who are protesting the stay-at-home order, and they have guns, and they're white people, and they're fine people. So I just want to know, what advice would you give to the president right now to say, this is what we need to do, and this is how you should handle it? Because I don't think that he's handling it properly with his verbiage.
I think what the president ought to do is use the God-given humility that he has, and don't doubt me that he does. He has a lot of humility.
There's nothing humble about the president.
Well, no, there is. Even at every rally, you will see his
all ego,
his appreciation for the people that show up. But it's simple matter of understanding he's president of everybody here, and trying to quell these moments of unrest is something that would be really, really to his advantage.
I think what you said about Obama in 2014 applies. When you said if he wants to, he can inspire, and I think is called for in this situation. But I don't think he wants to inspire. I think he wants to incite.
Okay, first, I do agree with you about the inspiration. I think he can. I think he should. I think all presidents should. In terms of Trump inciting, look, the guy has had everybody and their uncle telling lies and falsehoods about him for 3.5, 4 years now. And he's probably a little fed up with it. Before the shutdown happened, look at what black unemployment was. It was a record low. The number of African Americans that had jobs, the wages that were going up. And then this virus comes along and the bottom is pulled out from it. He's got to be frustrated as he can be. And I'm not trying to carry his water here.
Well, the black unemployment rate started going down under Obama too, though. I mean, that's one thing that Trump takes credit for, that actually started under President Obama.
It did? Okay. Well, that's...
Yes.
Then I'll
can I ask you a question, Russ?
Yeah.
Moving forward, all right, because, you know, the cops, let's say the cops get arrested, the cop gets charged, he goes to jail, great. How do we dismantle white supremacy as a whole moving forward?
Well, that's another show, guys, because I don't, you'd have to define what it means to you. Because I don't feel like I am a white supremacist, and I don't think there's much white supremacy going on out there, but I need to have you define. See, this is one of the divides.
I'll tell you that to me, once again, this system is designed to work for the people that it was built by, and that's white folks, particularly old white men. And now that people have had enough, because those white folks I spoke about earlier, who are out there, who really love black people as much as they love black culture, and they're out there standing with black folks and they want to fight with us, I think this is the tipping point. And we right now are at a point where we can finally force America to live up to its grand promises of liberty and justice for all, and not just liberty and justice for white folks.
It has. That's back to the beginning of the program. It has. It's out there. You guys have done it. Look, we're out of time here, but would you guys like to do this again, where we pick it up right from this point and maybe make a focus of white supremacy?
Not if we just going to dance the whole time. If you're going to have some honest conversation with us and stop telling us things like white privilege doesn't exist, and you don't know what white supremacy is, if we could do that, yes.
Well, Rash, I'm very into having these conversations, because I do think it is important for white people to acknowledge the hurt that they've inflicted on the African American community, and to be able to come forward and admit that we can't even move forward until that happens.
Well, that's what I was attempting to do here with all of you today. On the white supremacy thing, I'm not in any kind of denial. I just know that it's a politically charged element of the Democrat Party's politics and liberalism, and I do not cave or compromise or give one iota of an inch to liberalism, no matter what. So white supremacy or white privilege is a construct of today's Democrat Party, and I'm not going to agree with any aspect of it as they put it forth. I'm not denying that there are certain individuals out there who think they're better than other people, but structurally, institutionally, white supremacy, it's a construct.
You can't see how white people are just treated better in this country than black people.
Even just as far as how many people get pulled over by the police officers.
We can have these conversations, but we got to be honest with each other. Like, you got to admit that.
You guys, you set these things up.
They're getting shot by the cops.
You set these things up. You have no idea how. I can imagine what you're going to say. If I sit here and say you have no idea how I have been mistreated by various elements, various groups, various companies, various individuals my whole life. It's called life, and it happens. And we're all mistreated. I've been fired 9 times in my career.
But have you ever got thrown out your car because you were driving a nice car?
Have I ever had
patted down just for being black?
Yeah, I've had my car. I've had my car keyed. I've had my tires blown. Of course.
I'm talking about throwing out your car by a police officer because you're black driving a nice car, or walking down the street in Queens, the area where you're from, and the police pulling you over and patting you down. Has these things happened to you? Don't talk about keying a car. I done got shot at. They didn't shot up my car. Don't talk about keying a car and popping a tire. I'm talking about police officers pulling you out because you're black.
See, I'm a hermit.
Nothing.
I'm a hermit and a recluse, and I don't go out and do all that kind of stuff. No, that kind of stuff has never happened to me. I'll grant you.
I want to ask you one more question before we get out of here.
I've never had the cops assume that I am. Well, actually, no, that isn't true. I have been pursued.
Russ, stop.
I have been pursued by the cops. I was pursued by. Absolutely, I have. But look, guys, let me thank you again for. Let me thank you again for giving me the time today and having access to you and at least the chance to talk to you. I do appreciate it, and maybe we can do it again. I look forward to it.
Thank you, Russ.
I do want to know why you think.
Rest in peace, George.
All those white. That's right. All those white kids out there on the front lines protesting and fighting with black people. I salute them. But why do you think they're out there, Russ?
Because they're fed up with what happened to George Floyd. They're fed up with this situation that will not stop, that caused all this and provided the opportunity for all this to happen, meaning the opportunity to protest and riot. There are more Americans fed up with it than you know. That's my point.
What about America, though? You don't think that the fact that there's 40 million people who filed for unemployment? The largest unemployment rate since the Depression era? You don't think that they're fed up about that, too?
Well, I already acknowledged that earlier in the conversation. You can't put 40 million people out of work, but I'm telling you that you have a lot of simpatico people out there. white people were marching in the 60s with Dr. King. There were, in fact, Dr. King's death did not cause this kind of strife in this country.
Martin Luther King Jr. is dead because of racism and white supremacy.
Well, okay, if that's your answer to everything, then I don't know where we're going.
It is, though. It is. He's dead because he was fighting against racism and white supremacy.
All right.
That's why he's dead.
Well, good luck, guys. If we can do this again, we'll do it again. This is the Breakfast Club. It's Charlamagne the God, Angela Yee, and DJ Envy. And thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you.
Rest
in peace, George.
All right, Russ.
And that was it. And so that they appeared with me, Russ Limbaugh, and you hear white supremacy even before the interview or this conversation aired. White supremacy, not to be confused with white privilege, although I think they're used interchangeably and mean the same thing. White supremacy is a construct that is designed to shut off debate. It's designed to automatically proclaim certain people guilty and end it, they benefit whether they do or not simply because of the color of their skin. So anyway, that's how it went, and I was serious about perhaps continuing it with them. I don't know if they were or not, but I was. And we do have a scheduled obscene prophet timeout at 6:30. Following the brief statement in which he claimed that he was going to assume the role of law and order president, that if the mayors and governors would not take steps necessary to protect life and property, that he would, in all of these places where life and property are under assault and under attack. And then he said that he was leaving to go visit a very important place. And nobody knew what he meant. But the cameras all followed. The president ended up walking across the street from the White House around Lafayette Park, which was a location of some of the most violent, potentially violent protest activity in Washington the past couple of nights. Not just there, but I mean, Washington was ablaze as well as New York. The president went to St. John's Church, which was now boarded up. It had been attacked, set afire the night before. It's called the Church of the Presidents for obvious reasons. The president walked over there. He had a contingent. He had some of his family were with him. Some of the administration, Kayleigh McEnany, White House press secretary, was there. Excuse me, the Attorney General, William Barr, and other members, the National Security Team. And you could hear the sounds of protests even while the president was making a statement in the Rose Garden at the White House. The drive-by media kept talking about, this is incredible. This has never heard this before. A president making a statement. You hear the sound of protesters who hate the president just very short distances away. Blah, blah. They were all excited about it. So the president reaches St. John's Church. I was watching this on Fox News. I swear it's a good thing I don't have vertigo, because I swear that it had to be the cameraman that Fox was calling on did not know that his camera was active half the time, because it was being swirled around. We were getting shots of the street. And only occasionally, I couldn't believe they didn't have one camera. The president was not hiding. It was not impossible to find him. He wanted to be seen. It was the whole point of this. But eventually, the camera zeroed in, focused on Trump in front of the church, holding up a Bible. And I knew when he held up the Bible, it's like showing Dracula the cross. If the drive-by media is Dracula, a bunch of bloodsuckers showing the Bible, that you talk about triggering somebody. And it did. They were livid. How dare he? What's that, they said. What's that, they asked. It's a Bible. Yeah, Bible, separation of church and state. He can't do that. We don't have a state religion. This guy is terrible. Oh, my God, he's stupid. Oh, it's bad. It was just embarrassing. He's standing in front of a church. He's holding up a Bible in front of a church, the Church of Presidents. And somehow he's violating all norms. And I'm just going to tell you something here, folks. What Democrats and all of these so-called elites, the people who do think that they are supreme, we don't have a bunch of white supremacists. You know what we have? Liberal supremacists. There is a plague and a disease, and it is liberal supremacy, and it is everywhere. And it is exactly how they see themselves. They see themselves as better than you and me. They see themselves as smarter than you and me. They see themselves as more important and more valuable than you and me. And it is you and me and not you and I. They see themselves as more relevant, as more intelligent. And this is the problem that we have. This is the primary problem. It's the problem of the deep state, liberal supremacy. Call it administrative state supremacy, whatever. I prefer liberal because there's an ideological component. But that's what we're up against. We're not up against white supremacy. It's a bogus placeholder name that is just designed to infuriate, but it's not accurate or representative of anything in terms of reality. But I'm just going to tell you, the Democrats and all of you supremacists, all of you elites, all of you who think you're better and smarter, more important, more valuable, all of you in the drive-by media, what thing you don't understand? What Trump did last night by walking to that church, and I don't care, they're all now saying the Secret Service used tear gas to get the protesters out of the way, otherwise Trump couldn't have gone. What the hell were they supposed to do? The president tells them he wants to go to St. John's Church. Their job is to protect the life of the president. If they have to clear a path for the president to do it, that's the job. What are we supposed to do? Simply have the president exposed? Are we not supposed to offend the protesters? Are we not supposed to get them out of the way? This is how absurd things have become. We can't offend the protesters. We can't offend the rioters. We can't in any way show them that we don't understand and identify with their problem. The Secret Service has to do what's necessary to protect the life of the president. It's their job. It's the primary job. It's how they're judged. Secret Service does other things, but that detail yesterday, the gig is to protect the life of the president while getting him where he wants to go. And what the president did last night, what he did with this, all of you people, was more calming and assuring to the American people than you will ever understand. It was more calming and assuring than any news report by a drive-by media reporter or any statement by a blue state governor or mayor. The simple taking back of Lafayette Square and St. John's Church by virtue of walking across the street to the church. At the same time, he was telling governors and mayors to take back their streets from the thugs, or that he will do it for them. He's calling out the military. He says to normal Americans that there is an adult in charge here, that the adult has had enough, and is going to put an end to the destruction and the violence, whether they participate in it or not. People, I think, were even comforted by Trump pointing out that church, that historic church, has been shut down by the China virus, now vandalized. I think it's important that the president signaled it out. It was a bold move, folks. It was a brash and very bold move. Presidents don't just walk out of the White House, down the driveway and across the street into Lafayette Park and then over to St. John's Church. Most would never, if they went, it would be in an SUV. And they're probably, it's such a short trip, they probably would not even do a caravan. He would just sneak over there in a single vehicle. The drive-by media was having epileptic fits. Live, on the air. They had spent the day poking Trump as a coward, that he was hiding, that he was in the bunker 5 stories underground. He was hiding because he was afraid of the protesters. He was in the basement, and he was gutless, and he was frightened, and he was scared to death. He's such a coward. Well, all of that got out, blown to smithereens. Prove them 100% wrong. And I'll tell you this. If Barack Hussein Obama, same set of circumstances, but Barack Hussein O is the president, had Obama decided to walk outside the front door of the White House, down the driveway, across the street to Lafayette Park, over to St. John's Church, it would have been hailed as the second coming of Jesus Christ himself. The drive-by media would have been bowing down all along the route. They would have said, we can't look at him. We aren't qualified. We aren't capable. We aren't justified. We cannot. That's how an Obama trek to St. John's would have been portrayed. And by the way, he and his staff did this without the mask of fear. Ivanka was wearing the mask of fear, but she took it off after not too long a time. There's a great photo of this, of the president on the way with the White House in the background. Now, let me get back to Vinny, because I did Vinny a little trick. I asked him to comment on something he didn't even know about before he was finished saying what he actually called about. So, Vinny, we're back to you now. You say you're scared, and I can hear it in your voice. You got a gun. You never thought you would get a gun. You're not nervous having a gun. You never thought you would be scared enough to go get a gun, but now you're scared enough, then you've got a gun. That's where we left off with you.
Well, sure, for my family, and more so for my family, and of course for myself. But I feel on this mark in some respects that blacks feel they're marked by the police. I feel like they're marked by the Democratic Party, by the media, by minority groups, by Hollywood, and even by young white millennials who are running around looting, breaking, destroying, hurting. I feel that I've been backed into a corner when I hear terms like white supremacy and young people that I know talking to me about my white privilege, which I don't even know what the hell that means when I think of how I grew up and where I grew up and what I grew up with and without. I feel at this point we've crossed the line in this country, and it almost feels like it's turning into survival. And yeah, what you said a few moments ago about a civil war, yeah, I've thought about it a lot, and I've thought about, well, maybe the country should be divided in two. Maybe they should go on their one side of the country and We should.
Yeah, but I've thought about that. We've run that whole, okay, let's divvy it up. It wouldn't work because the left would end up having to cross the border into our part of the country because theirs would be like their blue states are now.
Hey, how you doing, Rush? I was just calling to give some thoughts on your chat with Charlemagne the Great, and I think that you have a real chance to actually make some substantive progress on race relations in general, because I think a lot of this whole white supremacy is manufactured by the media. I think it's continually pushed by the media. I've honestly never met a white supremacist. I've never met racist people. I think you have a chance with Charlemagne the God to go around the media and get straight to the consumer. You guys both have a huge audience, and I think that it's easy to blame something such as something that really is tough to pin down on what it actually is.
We had some people call yesterday, Andrew, that told me that heard the conversation I had with the Breakfast Club people, and they said you misunderstood. You didn't hear them when they were talking about white supremacy, and maybe not. Like you say you don't know one. You've never met one. As you know, I'm a literalist. I'm mayor of Realville. White supremacy to me means a white person who thinks that they're better, that they're superior, that the white race is superior based on DNA, based on science. Like, it's crazy. I don't know anybody who thinks that. I've never met anybody who thinks that one race is superior. I know they're out there, but they're kook fringe lunatics. They're not mainstream at all. And for the mainstream media to try to claim that white supremacy is the current mindset of the white population of the country, it's dangerous, it's destructive, but more than that, it's just not true.